Everyone, thanks for joining us today. You've joined the Solving the Frontline Disconnect from the manufacturing and construction industry. And my name is Jay Glass, and I'm on our marketing team. And so I'd like to introduce my colleagues. First, Charles Prasfika. He's an account executive on our North American team, and he's based in Fort Worth. And Danièle Steiger, she's on our product management team, and she's based in Zurich. So Charles, take it away, please.
Jay, thanks a lot for that introduction. And everybody, welcome to the Construction and Manufacturing Group today. Before we get started, I want to walk through a quick agenda for us. First, we're going to go through some of the trends that we currently see affecting manufacturing and construction businesses today. But then we really want to drill down on three main areas that our clients utilize Beekeeper to see positive results. And that is around keeping factories and job sites fully staffed, making sure that uptime stays at a very high level, and making sure that job sites are fully staffed as well. And last but certainly not least, keeping employees safe. We'll look at those underlying issues facing the industry today, give you a demonstration, or better, Danièle will, on how Beekeeper is used to solve for those, and then bring real-life customer stories of how our clients have innovatively used Beekeeper to move forward their objectives. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end. So as questions come up, feel free to put them in the chat or just send them directly to Jay, and we will come back and answer those at the end. But before we jump into all of that, just want to circle back around on who Beekeeper is, what we really focus on. We have an underlying and strong belief that frontline workers are the engine that drive manufacturing and construction. And if the last few years have shown us anything, it's not that they're just driving manufacturing construction, but they're the backbone of the global economy. For that reason, Beekeeper is one of the few organizations that solely focuses on frontline industries, meaning that everything that we do in terms of product is based on you and the frontline workers, those team members and those skilled laborers that are in your industries. The reason that we choose to do that, you might be asking why we focus so much, is because we realize that there is a massive disconnect. When we look at the things that you and I have as people that work in an office, we're inundated with a lot of different technologies that help us be more effective, collaborate in our jobs. But that just has not been made available to the frontline worker. And actually, I spend a lot of my time talking to people like you in different industries, and they say, we have these technologies and we made them available to our frontline, but the adoption rate's not so good. We're not really getting the numbers that we expected. And that's because frontline work and office work are completely different. Just like Chris, our CEO, said earlier, it's deskless, it's multilingual, there's a lot of offline coordination, collaboration. And in today's job market, there's a lot of turnover, people coming in that need to be trained and people moving out that need to be replaced. Lastly, everything is constantly on the go. It's a mobile world. That disconnect leads to real numbers. So just in 2019, we had $171 billion. That was the cost of safety incidents at work. A lot of those are in the manufacturing construction fields. That translates to real dollars, but let's not forget the people that are behind that as well. The same thing when we have processes that are designed to keep our machines up and running, that leads to a huge cost as well. Over 42% of downtime is caused by equipment failure. That can lead to up to $864 billion per year. Making sure that your communications, the things that you need done on a day-to-day basis, are easily accessible to the front line is key to mitigating these risks. So if we had to sum it up in a succinct way, our mission at Beekeeper is to empower frontline businesses with modern technologies to make their workers more engaged, productive, happy, and ultimately safe. As we move to our first focus here, keeping factories and job sites fully staffed, when we were doing our poll at the beginning of our summit today, the two leading factors were making sure that we have recruitment and retention, and also making sure that people are engaged. So we'll focus on keeping everyone staffed. But before we start, we'll go with a little quiz here. And we'll ask, during 2022, how challenging has it been keeping your plant or job site fully staffed? A, meaning about the same as always. B, greater than before, but still manageable, or C, the warning light's flashing orange. It's been a really tough year. Go ahead and take a moment to put that into the chat, and we'll give you a second to respond. Difficult, definitely. Another C, greater than before, difficult. So let's go ahead and move on. It's been tough. Everybody's felt it. That's something that's fairly obvious, I would say, in 2022. So 3 areas that we'll focus on with Beekeeper on how we can help you address some of those challenges are through shift coordination, making it so employees can self-service or even swap shifts. Talking about onboarding and training to make sure that retention is high and that we're getting learning out in an easy and digestible manner. And then lastly, leveraging those employee networks. You already have great people that work for you. Let's find ways to bring in their friends, their family that will also stay past that 30, 60, 90 days and be a productive member of your company. But before we jump into the demo, let's just talk about what life is often like before Beekeeper. We'll focus on Alex here, maintenance engineer. And these are stories that we hear every day working with our prospective clients. Alex typically learns of changes to his schedule or his work requirements with very little time. In fact, to check his schedule, he often has to go back into the plant and look at the board to actually look at a physical piece of paper to see when he works. He remembers just last week, he had been called in to work on a Saturday, and he had driven all the way to the plant to find that too many people had been called in, but he had already called a babysitter to take care of the kids. He had now wasted gas money, which we know is at a high price right now, and his time. That leaves a bad feeling. Instead of making some extra money or getting that overtime pay, it were just costs. The same thing goes for Alex's manager, Angela. She has to manage all of these schedules. And because she needs to have people ready to put in case there's somebody that doesn't show up to a line, she needs to be very careful with who goes out on break, and she needs to manage everything herself. And if there is a last minute cancellation and somebody can't come in, she has to call down a line, get HR to help, and call a bunch of phone numbers, trying to get somebody to come in last minute. Often those phone numbers aren't maintained and aren't up to date. It's a very difficult experience from both the manager and the individual contributor level, and there's got to be a better way. And of course there is. So we'll pass it over to Danielle to show how Beekeeper can help with these kind of issues.
Thank you, Charles. Seems like Alex's life is quite tough, huh? He has to manage so many things, but thankfully now that he has started using Beekeeper, some of these processes will become much better. And changes like shift plan swaps, new SOP processes will still be happening, but it's going to be much smoother for him. So I'm going to show you how this works, and you'll recognize some of the people and screens we'll show you based on what our CPO case shared earlier. And we really want to deep dive into what this new Frontline success system could look like for your company in manufacturing and construction. So let's jump in. All right. So each morning when Alex launches the Beekeeper app, it greets him with different updates in his personal workspace. So he can scan what is on today's calendar, the handover that we'll be talking about. You can also see to-do tasks that are due today and upcoming events, as well as some chats that he has missed. So this morning, what is really interesting for Alex is to see today's handover. So you can click into that one, and he has 2 options. He can read the briefing or play the audio. Sometimes he likes playing to the audio. This is especially useful when Alex is on his daily commute. But this morning, he decided to read the briefing. And because English is not Alex's mother tongue, he also likes to translate it to Spanish, which makes it much easier for him to digest the content, especially when it's a bit more technical and really important, such as the handover. So this will automatically translate not only the text here, but also the tasks that are due today. So Alex feels really prepared for the day ahead. He comes into his workplace, completes the tasks that are open here, and at the end of the morning shift goes to his lunch break. And during the lunch break, he remembers that his family is coming to visit him from Mexico City and that he wants to take a few days off then. So what Alex does, he goes into his toolbox up here and he is able to request a holiday via a Beekeeper form. So that's what he does. He requests a vacation for a couple of days and submits it. Within a few minutes, you can see up here that the holiday request has been accepted by his manager, Angela. And this makes Alex really happy because he has some flexibility to take holidays, maybe even a couple of weeks in advance. This was totally impossible before, and I'm sure you can relate to that. You plan shifts maybe multiple months in advance. So for Angela, this was the same. And she decided to give some more flexibility to her employees thanks to the Beekeeper app. But it comes with a bit of ownership from the team. So if they want to take a few holidays before, they need to ensure that their shifts are also being filled. And this is what we're going to do now with Alex. So he goes back into his toolbox, goes into his shifts, and is able to see the different shifts that he's been assigned to in the next few months. It's really easy for him to swap a shift. And that's what he does for each shift that he's going on holidays for. And again, within a few minutes, Carlos has accepted his first shift swap. So this automatically will update the team's schedule and replacing Alex with Carlos for the shift in question. And so for Alex, you can imagine that he loves this new process. It's really comforting to actually being able to come to work when you're needed and not just as a backup, but also to have some individual ownership and a bit of flexibility to swap the shifts when you need to. And for Angela, of course, this is a great process because she can now really focus her energy on making the team efficient and improving the team morale and not spending time on repetitive organizational tasks such as planning shifts last minute. So now, Charles, I'm really curious to see how our customers use Beekeeper to their advantage.
All right, then let's talk a little bit about Flagger Force. They did the same thing, found a way to simplify the experience for both the end user and the manager as well. So Flagger Force is based in the construction industry. They focus on providing traffic control services, and they've got about 1,800 employees that they need to deploy to different locations for work, sometimes up to 500 different work sites. Now, Tamara Palmer, one of the internal communications manager over there at Flagger Force, she's actually speaking in one of the other breakout rooms, but she identified that there was a challenge, that there was a gap. Every day, their operations team would have to think about what sites were going to be open and ready to work, and they would have to dispatch people. But it created these inconsistencies where either too many or too few people might be sent over to that site. Tamara had the great idea of having the operations teams post the job sites that were open on a Beekeeper stream so that the frontline employees, the team members, they could see what was open, make sure that they had the requisite skills necessary, and say, I would like to take this job, almost like a LinkedIn. Once that was done, operations could close it and dispatch people and know with certainty that they were going to the site. Since doing that, they've been able to ensure that 75% or more of those job sites are always staffed. And it's taken out a lot of the guesswork involved. With that, there's been about $48,000 in time savings just from that one procedure, that one idea that Tamara had. On top of that, they built out an entire referral system. Instead of making it through paper or through the job site where employees could just refer people on the go, and they're hanging out at a barbecue maybe, and bring them into Flagger Force. From that, they realized they had a greater retention rate. From all those referrals, they hired 30%, and they were able to keep 67%. And that ended up being a $250,000 saving, return on investment in 1 year because of not having to constantly retrain people. They were able to take that shift coordination aspect, make sure that people were coming on board and traded quickly and they were retaining them, and then leverage those employee networks to make sure that in the middle of a labor crisis, they were growing and bringing better people and realizing ROI. So next we'll move up to production uptime. The three main areas that we'll want to focus on this are missed targets, So making sure that we are staying on track with our expectations so that customers are happy and revenue is being brought in, speeding up process changes, and then easing communication. What if you could communicate with all of your employees, target that information instantly instead of taking days or weeks to pass it down the line? To give you an idea of what some of those processes can look like, I brought up this changing an SOP process. Everybody's process is a little bit different. But one thing that's common between all the industries is getting from that first step where you're determining a goal, you realize there's a problem, and you address how you're going to fix it, and then actually implementing and making small changes as it goes. It's a very windy road. The bigger and more geographically spread out that your business is, the harder it becomes. So even after it's been rolled out, you have to fine tune it and get the feedback. It takes a long time. It's very complicated. We could look at the example of Angela, who we talked about earlier, being Alex's manager. Say she has to manage 15 different production sites, and each one of those production sites has 3 shifts, and she needs to get feedback from all of them and then disseminate it. That is a daunting task if it's done physically through just stand-up meetings. So Danièle will show you how through Beekeeper, we make that process a little bit simpler, or maybe a lot of it. Go ahead, Danièle.
Thank you. It sounds like life is not only tough for Alex, but also for Angela. And Angela, as the maintenance team lead, has a wide range of responsibilities, and she needs to juggle so many balls. It's understandable that she is sometimes afraid to drop one. So Beekeeper is really starting to help her now. And to understand how she can improve this new process, I'm going to show you how this could look like on Beekeeper again. So the first thing that Angela did was that she sent out a survey. She really wants to understand the main pain points of the current maintenance process of all heavy machinery needed on different construction sites. So these machines need to be checked on a regular basis by different members of the team. And these people essentially need to ensure that these machines are safe to use for the rest of the people on site. So within the survey, she targeted only the maintenance team, because these are the people who are actually attending to these machines. So in real time on her workspace, Angela sees the results coming in. And you can see that the workspace looks a bit different. And Case also pointed to that earlier. It looks different from Alex's workspace and has a lot more information about her team in general. So it has the survey results. It also has information about the team's overall sentiment, the today's tasks progress. And based on these results coming in, Angela learns a few things. So first of all, she sees that a lot of new employees seem to struggle sometimes with understanding everything that needs to be done on the assignment. You can see it down here. So especially for junior members, it can be tough to remember how to perform the different checks when you just started at this company. So Angela actually makes a note for herself to write out instructions better for the upcoming checklist. And apparently, language also seems to be an issue. And at the moment, all paper checklists are written in English, but the company that Angela works for is very multicultural. So naturally, it becomes essential to have checklists that are understandable by everyone. We've seen this a lot in our customers. Language can be a really big barrier, and Beekeeper wants to help those workers understand the work that they need to be doing. So Angela learns about this new process that she wants to set up and starts to revise it. The first thing she does is that she wants to set up a weekly recurring task for the maintenance team. So she clicks on this, fills out a new task, adds a description, different subtasks that need to be performed, and remembers to attach some instructions for the teams or the people that are onboarding and probably more junior. She creates this task, and this will be generated on a weekly basis to the entire team. That is not all, of course. Angela needs to make sure to announce this and do proper change management as a follow-up. So first, what she does is she goes back into Streams and creates a new post for her team to understand the new process. So again, she introduces the new SOP process, thanks all the participants for the survey, and asks them to review the process that she's just set up. After she published the post, she gets a few concerned responses, and this is absolutely normal, but the feedback is mostly positive. Everybody is really excited for what sounds like a much easier and quicker way to report back on completed checklists. And then last but not least, Angela makes also sure to address these concerns in the daily physical stand-up and briefing the next morning. She's very glad that people had time to digest the new information and maybe are coming in with a few questions that she can then answer in real time as well. So now let's see how this would look like for our friend Alex, who is actually part of Angela's team. So Alex has read all about this new process, right? Yesterday, when he went back from work and was on his commute back home, he read about this post and had his thought about it. And then actually the next morning, during his coffee break, Alex is daydreaming. And all of a sudden, he hears the familiar ping of his phone telling him that there is a new task notification about the upcoming maintenance checklist. So here it is. This is Alex's phone. He receives this new notification, can go in immediately and he immediately also has all information about the specific machine. He also sees that his colleagues were really quick and already completed 4 out of the 8 subtasks that need to be done here. So he can go and complete the rest of the checklist, mark the entire task as complete. So with this, Alex saves time. Plus, sometimes when he would fill out the manual paper checklist with his hands, the list would get dirty or even wet, whereas now Alex is able to just use maybe one clean finger that he can still find somewhere and then complete the entire checklist that way. And for Angela, of course, this is also great because she has an overview of all the things that have been done, which is obviously also very important for compliance purposes, because sometimes audit inspectors might come by, might ask for a specific form or checklist on a specific day, and then Angela can quickly filter and find that list for that specific day. Let's move on to the next customer story. Charles, tell us all about AVB, please.
Thank you, Danielle. And if you all were in the previous breakout room with Subi, you got to hear directly from him on how it's affected their business so far. Switching over to Beekeeper, one of the main ways that they did that was every morning their employees, when they went to their workstation, they had to go through a physical checklist. Danielle said it would get dirty, it would get misplaced. They decided to digitize that list and make it just so that they could check yes, no. As soon as they got in, they could take a picture if something was wrong. And when they would submit it, a maintenance team would show up in 3 minutes to fix it. That goes back to that big uptime number we were talking about, right? When machinery goes down, it can end up being costs that go into the thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions. The second thing that Subi thought of doing was, what if we took our little suggestion box that probably has a few cobwebs in it and we digitized that? What kind of feedback could we get? He saw a huge increase, over 200%. And he had ideas that management didn't think about because of that disconnect. They were able to display that for everyone to see and also show all of their team members that what they were talking about, their concerns were being listened to and addressed, becoming that employer of choice, something I hear on almost every call that I take nowadays with a prospective customer. So by doing that, they're able to ensure that they're hitting their targets, keeping their customers happy. When they need to change a process, it can happen instantly. And then they ease that communication both from the top down and the bottom up. And so in our final example, as we're getting close on time here, we'll talk about keeping employees safe. We have another poll here, but we're going to move through as we go. But what are the biggest challenges you face when it comes to safety in your industry? Lack of training, lack of resources, lack of time, or all the above? Feel free to answer in the chat, but we'll keep moving so we stay on time. The 3 ways that we're going to approach keeping your employees safe are by preventing safety hazards in the first place by doing self-serve near miss forms, because near misses they keep us from having to do incident or accident reports. Boosting the existing safety culture at your company, and then automating those safety procedures so they're more efficient and effective. If we can look at a before scenario one more time, we can talk about Carlos. He works at a job site for a construction company, and he noticed scaffolding's unstable. So he needs to report that, obviously. They fixed the scaffolding, but he doesn't remember the process. So he has to go find his foreman. His foreman directs him to a box of forms in the office that he has to dig through. And maybe English is his second language. So it's difficult to fill out the form. And then he puts it on an overloaded inbox. That took Carlos away from his job, and his foreman, Marcus, at the end of the day, has to upload all that information either through their website, maybe through an email thread to get back to HQ, where they need to go through physical processes to make sure that information is stored and secured, and then changes are made in the future. The process is extremely kludgy, and safety is about time to action. So let's switch it over to Danièle, talk about how we can make safety something quick and efficient at your company.
Thank you, Charles. So we know that health and safety culture is very important in all organizations, right? But especially in industries such as manufacturing and constructions, where workers will be very exposed to dangers all the time. And we also know that one key aspect of safety culture is that the entire workforce needs to participate in those processes and become safety experts themselves. So let's look at the story shared by Charles. So Carlos as an assembly line operator, and one day when he arrives at his place of work, he notices a critical safety hazard. The scaffolding seems unstable. And this is obviously an immediate threat to the safety of all workers around. So let's see how Carlos can now submit this incident report very easily with Beekeeper. So again, we are now in the workspace, in Carlos's workspace, and it has similar information to what we've seen for Alex previously. So Carlos now goes into his toolbox again that we have started to know about and sees the incident reporting form. He can very easily see the form and fill it out. But again, Carlos is not an English speaker, a native speaker. So it really helps him that he's able to translate the entire form in Spanish. This makes it super easy for him to understand what he needs to fill out and where the information needs to go, especially because, again, it's more of a technical topic. And previously, Carlos had to sometimes ask his colleagues for help, and now Beekeeper helps him to do so automatically. So Carlos fills this out, and now we're going to switch to Alex, who, let's remember, Alex is the maintenance engineer on site. So this is now Alex's phone. Carlos has sent the incident report, has announced that there is an unstable scaffolding, and automatically this triggers again a notification for Alex. So Alex, again, we know the drill by now. He goes into the task, and automatically what is really useful for him to see here is that Carlos has attached the form to this. So he actually knows the time of the incident, the location, he understands the risk of it all. He also knows what kind of tools to prepare to go on site and fix this unstable scaffolding. So Alex does that, fixes the problem, and marks the task as complete. And by doing this, obviously, it's super helpful for his foreman, Marcus, to understand what has been done or not. Let's remember for Angela as well, in the previous example, she could easily filter by tasks. So this is the same for Marcus, who doesn't need to go through his huge pile of checklists anymore, but can easily access them in his Beekeeper app. So now let's hear about our third customer for this session.
Thanks, Danièle. So our final customer spotlight that we're going to be doing is Cargill. You're probably familiar with them. They're a massive company, and they had silos upon silos, not just at the managerial level, but across 30 different languages, 28,000 employees that were all disconnected across 45 different locations. But safety is a key pillar to Cargill because not only for their employees, do they need to worry about safety, but also they're doing food products, so for their consumer. So Kim Wolf, one of the leaders in their protein industry, realized that this was an issue and wanted to create an easy button with Beekeeper. She was able to take food and safety protocols, which were usually word of mouth by stand-up meeting, and have managers post videos that the frontline employees could see. During COVID, with all these other restrictions, they were able to send out information like that and then get confirmations. And then the biggest one, they were able to digitize their near miss reporting so that their frontline employees could go and submit them on the go. In the end, they got 96% of those frontline employees onboarded. They broke down 30 language barriers and they got a 50% increase in near miss reporting. Those are reports that were just going unreported before, keeping Cargill a safer place. So when we circle back around on the things that we've covered today, when we talk about solving the frontline disconnect, it's keeping your factories safe, keeping your job sites filled, making sure that everything's as productive as it can be. Flagger Force, ABB, and Cargill all came up with their own way to do this, and Beekeeper was the medium for them to do this. And the reason that they decided to do it was because they realized that in 2022 and going into 2023, the status quo is expensive. Businesses face a choice. If they do not adapt with this time, they might lose their competitive edge, or they might lose some of that staff to retention and turnover, and ultimately that affects the customers. But now is a time to digitize the workforce and to take that risk and turn it into a competitive advantage. We're trusted by over 1,000 customers today, many of which are in manufacturing and construction industries. We look forward to the innovation that you will have on the Beekeeper platform. And most of all, we look forward to inviting you to the Beekeeper family. So with that, we'll open it up for some Q&A with whatever time we have left, and we'll be happy to answer questions that come through the chat.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, we actually have time for a few questions. The first question that we've gotten is Beekeeper a operations tool or a comms tool? Curious about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that one because we get it a lot. And the question's a little bit of both, but also neither. Our three main pillars that we focus on are comms and collaboration, productivity, and employee services. So operations is very central to that. Often at first, people want to solve that communications question, but we designed a tool that we want our team members and those skilled laborers to actually use. So there needs to be that operations piece. There needs to be something that makes their job easier that they come to use, not just to get information pushed down to them, but something that makes their job easier, like we had talked about at the beginning of the call. That's where Beekeeper is strongest.
Great. Thanks, Charles. The next question, somebody had asked about if at our company, we don't necessarily have the ability to have our frontline teams have their phones on the shop floor. So how have you guys dealt with that with other customers?
I can answer that one again because I get this question just about every day. So every organization has its own policy regarding handheld devices on the floor or on the job site, but Beekeeper is able to work with you around that. We see some of our clients install terminals where a shared Beekeeper account can be on where people can access it. We also see company iPads or Android devices being used. Also, usually a line manager or a foreman has access to those mobile devices in terms of that operations aspect. In terms of everything leading up to the shift and after, it's great for them to be able to use that on their break or right before their shift. They can get all the updates they would get in a stand-up meeting in 4 or 5 minutes just in the break room or just waiting for the shift to start.
Great. Thank you, Charles. Those are all the questions that we have. We really thank you for your participation and want to let you know that we'll be announcing the Frontline Hero Awards in the main room in a few moments. So everyone, thanks so much for attending and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.